It's not a picture. It's a video. It's Thursday, and I'm here with my laundry, and with my friend Anissa.
Hello.
Oh, one thing that happens on this show is
Yes.
that when we talk about our dreams, we don't disclose the names of the people who were in our dreams.
Okay.
Even
Okay.
though we know that that wasn't actually those people per se.
Right.
But
Okay.
Because it's the internet,
Yes.
and so
And I have to say, my voice is not as soothing as Andrew's, so sorry.
it sounds soothing to me right now.
Oh. Shall I try to be soothing?
This is my friend Anissa, and she's visiting me. I'm just delighted. I once had a dream. Oreo.
Oreo.
I'm here to fold laundry, but Anissa is here to make a.
Afghan?
She's making an Afghan, but Oreo is so excited by her yarn.
I have never had a dog go after yarn like that before.
I mean, it's almost a cat-like thing to do.
It is a
right?
very cat-like thing to do.
Does your cat do it?
My cats do it. Oreo, it's okay. I didn't call you a cat.
No. Goodness sakes, no. I once had a dream in which have you ever done readers theater, Anissa? Have you done theater at all?
No, I'm not very good at theater.
What do you mean by
I'm good
that?
at watching theater.
Should I disclose how I first met you?
That's fine.
So, I don't actually know for the first time.
I think it was the first time.
It was the first time, okay. So, Anissa and I met at a storytelling slam. Was it a storytelling slam? It was an event. It was a storytelling event in the basement of a bar. And do you remember what stories we told?
No idea.
Same. Is this still working? Something weird just happened with the...
Are you losing power? Do you need to
I'm not
charge it?
losing power. No, I'm at 100% power. What are the chances of being at 100% power?
I'm never at 100% power.
I had it at work today, and so it was charging all day long. So we told stories, and we became friends, and there's many more mid-stories between that. But now Anissa lives in Ohio, and I live in Washington, D.C.
Which is very sad for me.
And it's very sad for me that we live so far apart.
Yes.
I'm still very glad that I live here, and I'm still very glad for the people who still live in Ohio that
Yes.
they get to have your presence there.
Oh, you're sweet.
We ended up having all kinds of friends in common, even though we made them kind of on our own.
Yeah, which
in
is weird.
Really different ways. Maybe
Yeah.
the same people are drawn to our energy.
Ooh, that piece of yarn was slimy. Just
Because
saying.
of Oreo.
It's okay.
Who
It's okay.
is this Afghan for?
Nobody in particular.
Oh.
It's just, I rarely keep the things I make, so I'll just,
When it's right, you'll know who to give it to.
yes.
In the stream that I had, I was at a party that one of my former students was throwing.
One of the former students I know.
I don't know. Katie Hughes is her name.
I thought you were,
Do we start the whole thing over again?
that's up to you.
What
Or do you block it out? What do you do?
This has never happened before.
It's because I'm distracting you.
No, I didn't. This isn't the dream I was planning on talking about.
Oh.
So
Can you go in and cut it out or bleep it out?
maybe we could just like do a spell and people could like forget what it is.
Okay.
Or maybe I'll like mispronounce it next time I say it, and
Okay.
people will not know which the right pronunciation is.
Okay.
So I was at a party, and this is not like there's nothing damning about this particular thing. What's happening with that light?
I don't know.
It's very strange.
We're having lots of issues.
Technical issues. And there were a lot of people at the party, and everyone kept reminding me that there was this band who was performing at the party, and
Okay.
they were a pretty famous like indie band.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the living room of this house, it was like a ranch house, but in the living room,
Hopefully a big ranch house if there are a lot of people.
it was a very big ranch
Okay.
house.
Okay.
But like there were maybe more people in it than what maybe should have been in it, because of this band was such a huge big deal that they were there.
Okay.
In the living room, and I had never been to the house before, so I didn't
Okay.
know that it was the way it was. But when I went into the living room, there was actually the size of a whirlpool circle cut out in the floor, and like a little ironwork banister around it, as if it were a spiral staircase,
yeah.
upstairs, which you can imagine that happening in the 70s.
Yeah.
Some quirky people, but it was in the middle of the room. That seems a little odd.
That seems a little odd. Like I would fall in that.
Right.
I would be that person.
Right. But when I walked in, I realized that the band was down there.
Oh,
and
that's kind of cool though.
And when they started playing their song that everybody knew,
yeah.
they were on a platform, and the platform came up.
Nice.
I know, and so when the platform came up, it sort of synced the top of. It had a circular couch around the perimeter of the platform.
This sounds very Austin Powers.
It does. I
Okay.
definitely can see what you're saying.
Keep going.
Because it was like a sunken couch, essentially,
yeah.
by the time that it finished.
Yeah.
But I wasn't, hyper aware or conscious of any of that, although it was kind of memorable. When I
Right.
woke up
Well,
from
yeah,
it.
it's not a.
But they were
thing.
singing this song that they were very famous for, and the song was, "There is nothing like the one who comes from far to see you."
Aww.
I know. And it's, to me, it reminded me of this Iranian song.
Of course it did.
Oh, maybe it's not even an Iranian song. I know it from an Iranian film. I know that it's an Arabic song. It's called Yarum Baya.
Okay.
And I know that it's like a kind of a love. I think it's like "Come Away with Me, My Love." That's essentially what the hook of the song is.
Okay.
And it's a very beautiful song. It's very passionate. Like the singer just throws his voice into it in this amazing way.
Nice.
And I saw. Oh, look! This is a rag, not a T-shirt. It doesn't get folded.
I mean, it could be a T-shirt.
It was a T-shirt once.
Okay.
And then it wasn't anymore.
All right. Fair enough.
I came across that song in the film "A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night." Sometimes I give film recommendations on this channel. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Yeah.
Okay.
Have you heard of that?
Again, it sounds familiar, but you could have mentioned it.
It's an Iranian vampire movie that was filmed in California.
See, that's the kind of stuff you tell me to watch. So I feel like, like those Christmas trees. Those were horrible.
Tell me what Christmas trees.
You did some kind of
screening
of short films in the basement of an art place.
I remember.
And the Christmas trees killed everybody.
I don't remember.
They were all on the
I do remember that you were horrified.
I was horrified because the Christmas trees dove into people and killed them, and
I don't have any memory of this.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds
It happened.
clever and funny.
Those are some words.
So when I woke up from the dream, I still could sing it.
That's cool.
There's nothing like the one who comes from far to see you. Boom, 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 boom. And so I started looking. Do I know this song? I think it just came from my dream.
That's cool.
I've had many songs in my dream, but usually when I wake up, the song is just ridiculous and stupid. No, if I remember it, it's just embarrassing.
Okay.
This one though,
Did you sing it into Google and see if Google recognized it?
I searched for it. I tried really
okay.
hard to find it, but now I'm putting it on YouTube, and so maybe someone else will.
Maybe.
There's nothing like the one who comes from far to see you. Anyway, that was all a long way of saying. First, in Reader's Theater, you never look at your scene partner; you look at the audience. So we could talk to each other that way, right?
Right.
We could actually make eye contact.
Wow. That's so meta. Sorry. Go ahead.
It is. So
I'm not a nice person. It's okay.
You're not a nice person?
No, I just
you
make
have
fun
a
of my
sharp
friends.
wit.
I don't know if it's sharp. It
is, trust me. I've felt its brute force plenty of times. So I'm just excited, excruciatingly happy to have my friend Anissa visiting. Yay. And if you happen to visit me, then you could probably knit an Afghan.
This is crochet?
Crochet? And you're crocheting an Afghan?
Afghan, yes. Crochet you do with one.
Uh-huh.
Knitting you do with two or more.
That's right. Do you know how to knit?
Yes, but I'm very bad at I'm
It's
very good
harder?
at crochet. No, people generally are just good at one or
Okay.
the other.
Yeah.
I'm very good at crochet.
Okay. It's good to know what you're good at.
Yeah, it did the thing again.
We don't know what this thing is.
And it might be just dimming for us and not for them, so then that would be funny because then they're like, what are they talking about?
Right. That's okay.
Yeah.
And in our, my grandmother, my grandma Marge,
Yeah.
not to be mistaken with the Marge who sent you an email today,
Yeah.
was a knitter.
Yes.
She knit Afghans. Is that
Yes.
possible?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
And sweaters.
Yes, my grandmother was a knitter as well, but she was left-handed. So she couldn't teach my mother how to knit. She tried.
That
but
seems like the makings of a mythical story, a left-handed knitter.
it is very hard for someone who is left-handed knitting or crocheting to teach someone who is right-handed knitting or crocheting. Because it's mirrored, it's just hard.
Did she teach you?
No, I learned from a friend of mine in high school, and then I taught my mother.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And does your mother still?
My mother still crochets. She does an amazing thing when she crochets. She takes all of her scraps and all of her yarns and things, and she makes granny squares. And then the last row in the granny square is like a base color, like white or beige or black. And then she just puts the squares in boxes. And then, oh, I need a baby blanket. I'll sew together some granny squares. Oh, I need this blanket for this gift. I'll throw together some granny
I
squares.
think I have a granny square Afghan that
Yeah.
was gifted that I love.
I'm sure.
But
I wouldn't be surprised.
Didn't know what it was called.
Yeah.
So tonight's stream comes from January of last year.
Wow.
Of
You're really
2020
digging in there.
2024. Well, I sort of started this series because at the end of every year I kind of look back at big dreams.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
And so I'm kind of like working my way through maybe last year, not on purpose, just by impulse.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? So it just did that thing again. The screen got lighter.
Yeah.
Let's just not do anything to it.
I think it's because we're not touching the screen.
Now, see, that feels wrong.
That does feel wrong.
But is it still working?
Is it counting?
Is it what?
Is it counting up? Is the timer counting up?
It is time. It's kind. Yep.
I think it's because we're not touching the screen.
But I never touched the screen. This has never happened to me before.
Well, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
It's a technical difficulty that is becoming a serious theme of this entire show.
Yes.
But worse things have, commandeered the attention.
So January dream. Why do you think you had this January dream?
I don't usually try to answer that question.
Oh. Okay.
So I have talked a little bit on this show about my emerging way of thinking about dreams.
Okay.
So one of the things that I've said is that I came from a religious tradition where a lot of people claimed that God was telling them
Yes.
things.
Yep.
All kinds of things.
Yes.
Things that seemed so mundane and actually maybe not the sort of things that you'd expect the great divine being of the universe to concern himself with.
Park in this
themselves
spot.
with.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it was more befuddling to me because I felt like I was the most pure-hearted and ardent lover of this
I'm sure you were.
God.
I'm sure you were.
And yet I was not hearing from this God at all.
That must have been hard.
It was, it wasn't like a great burden of my life, but it was like a seed of discontent maybe with the popularized version of, how people were practicing their faith. It just didn't really resonate with me because I didn't know why I wouldn't be. Well, I think maybe the natural thing in that case is to think, is God not talking to me because there's something wrong with me? Have I committed the unpardonable sin? There was never any clarity on what that one was. It was always the sort of like fill in the blanks and. Oh,
I got it that time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
But of course, mine was that I was secretly gay.
Well, yeah.
And because that was such an unspeakable secret.
That you didn't even know it yourself.
Oh, no, I did. I definitely
You did?
knew.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
From very, very young, I knew. But I couldn't acknowledge it. And I tried to find any reason or way for it to not be the case. But because I couldn't acknowledge it or speak it, I also didn't have the capacity to understand how tangled it was with all the other things I thought about.
Okay.
So different parts of my life, I kind of like walked away from that religion. I felt like I couldn't be a part of it because I had never heard from God. And then only kind of recently, I sort of thought, well, you know what? Dreams are the closest thing that happened in my life to feeling like divine revelation. They are transcendent. They're mysterious. They are compelling. They are both informed by symbol systems that mean a lot to me, and also so far beyond my comprehension that it, like, gives me hope that I'm connected to some celestial, or, you know, I'm not trying to start a new religion about it.
No.
But it just felt like, okay, I actually could say, because I've been cataloging my dreams for so many years, and I take them all seriously.
Yes, I do. You always have.
I don't always know what they mean, and frankly, I'm okay with it when I don't know what they mean.
Yeah, but that's like super biblical, right? Because there's oracles in the Old Testament. I mean, dreams all through. Like,
right. God
yeah,
was
that makes sense.
everybody.
That's part of your tradition,
right?
In a way.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, thank you. You're so kind.
I'm trying. I gotta change colors soon.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Do we have to like cut to commercial?
No,
break?
we don't. I'll just get up and go get the other color.
Okay. I mean, I like that. That's very natural. That's what's actually happening in the world. So, the other piece of my kind of emerging way of thinking and talking about dreams is that
Mess that up.
I don't necessarily think dreams. Well, and actually, we have an experience together.
Yep.
I don't think dreams are necessarily always just for the dreamer. I think that they are for the dreamer, of course. The dreamer is the first person to steward and hold them. But I kind of think they're for everybody, that the dreamer's ready to share them with.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about, like...
I don't remember all the details of the
we
dream.
we don't have to talk about that dream specifically, but just what you said to me.
Oh, I just remember saying, I had a dream, but it wasn't for me, it was for you.
That's exactly right.
I just was, like, it wasn't for me, it was for you. Does this make sense?
And no one has ever said those words to me before. So you may have had a lot to do with me sort of...
Well, I don't know if I've ever had a dream for someone else. Like,
Same.
I mean, maybe I did, but I just didn't have that feeling of, oh, I need to tell this person right away.
You didn't feel compelled.
Right.
Well, like, the fact that it happened to you, though, then made me sort of go, oh, dreams aren't just for people. And they might be for everyone. So anyway, so there was one more point to that. Oh, I can tell you one part of it that was interesting. I was wearing clothes that were way too big for me.
Yes. Oh, and the apartment wasn't someone dead in the apartment or something?
In the bathtub.
In the bathtub. See? Oh, and my cousin was involved?
Yes.
I remember this now. I'm remembering bits and
Coming
pieces.
flooding back.
Okay.
So, I think that the person who was dead in the bathtub ended up maybe not being dead. I have this written down somewhere, but that's not the dream for today. Today's dream is from last January. And I was writing with my film producer. So one of the things I've done is I've made a little list of everyone's, like, code names, because I'm not referring to people with their actual names.
Okay.
Name swaps for my show. Irene. Irene is my film producer.
Okay.
And we've made a bunch of films together.
Yes.
And she and I were driving through a country road, kind of in, like, southern Ohio.
Okay.
It was wooded, and the road was, like, very narrow and very up and over hills and swirling around. And we had the windows down, loud rock music on. We were dressed up like we were going to a wedding or going to some big party.
Okay.
And
I'm just looking at my pattern.
please do.
Thank you.
And all of a sudden, I think I was compelled by the idea that I had just missed my turn. So the first chance that I got, I yanked the car left into a driveway.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did that, like immediately the driveway opened up to a yard, and it was like a country yard. So kind of like not really very mowed, not very, kind of a, what's it called when the driveway has like just stones on it? Gravel driveway.
Yep. All right, I'm listening. I'm just going to get the yard.
Oh, okay. So I so I just pulled right in, but I was going so fast that I ended up like actually going into the yard. Oreo, did he make an appearance?
I don't know.
I never know if he actually.
I can make him. Oreo, come get the yarn. Come get the yarn.
Does Oreo want to make an appearance?
I probably should encourage that behavior.
So I pulled quickly in, and all of a sudden I had to slam on the brakes because I almost had hit a tree. And at the same time that I slammed on the brakes, Irene had a sharp intake of breath.
Okay.
Because at that same moment that she had a sharp intake of breath, I saw what she saw, and that is that there was a very small, like a 7-year-old child standing right next to the tree. And had I not stopped for the tree, I would have hit the child.
That's horrible.
Yeah, we both felt like just awful. So like this, we were talking earlier today about the idea of Anissa had some nightmares, and I said, "Do you remember what they were?" And she said that she had felt anger in one of them. Is that right?
Most of them, yeah. They all made me feel angry.
And I was like, well, I wouldn't even call that a nightmare, because to me, a nightmare is when I'm scared. But I would call that moment a nightmare moment.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like,
Oh, that would totally be a nightmare moment for me.
so we both jumped out of the car and we ran around to the front to see if this kid was fine. And we saw, or we heard first, we heard this little girl who was mysteriously we couldn't see where she was.
Yeah.
But she was crying. And then we both have this panic moment that we actually did
hurt
a child, a different child. This is maybe the sister. We don't know. And then she comes around the corner, and she's crying like full voice, horrified. And she comes right over to us, and she holds up her hand, and I can see right away that right here on her hand is a soft, dark, almost like a wound that you would find in a banana.
Okay, yeah, like a spot, yeah.
Yeah, but on a human hand, which is very awful.
Yeah.
It's a little bit gross.
Yeah,
And
like a deep bruise that's kind of gone.
Yeah, during this whole time, Irene and I don't exchange any words, but we both are sort of thinking in sync so much that we're both asking the question, did I run over her hand?
Right, yeah.
Is this related? Is her crying and having this horrible wound related to, what we did?
Mm-hmm.
And we can't get her to stop crying, but all of a sudden this woman runs out of the house, and she's got this look on her face like, oh no. And we both looked at her and looked at each other, and we're very nervous. And the little girl runs up to her and grabs onto her leg. I wrote this in my dream journal, as if it were the mast to comfort her in the storm of emotions that she was feeling at the moment. She was gripping her mother.
Okay, yeah.
But the mom looks at us and she said, "Is everything okay?" But she's not at all talking about her daughter.
Her daughter, yeah.
She's just talking about the fact that, who are we? Why are we there?
Yeah.
And then she says, "Andrew, Irene, what are you doing here?" And at this moment, we suddenly remember, we barely recognize her.
Yeah.
Because 10 years before, Irene was in the corral with her. and I didn't really, like, she was not my student. So Irene was my student many years ago.
Okay.
But this girl was not my student.
Okay.
But I recognized her from having seen her in chorale. And
chorale is in choir. Chorale.
As in choir.
Okay.
Chorale.
Yep. I was thinking horse chorale, and I was a little confused.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
In the university, right?
In the university, yeah.
So, so we were like, and we said her name, but I don't know her name. I'm not just hiding her. How in the world are you here? And she's like, I've lived here for years, and why are you here? But instead of answering, Irene was like, I think you might want to look at her hand. And the mother like pushes the little girl back, like she does this all the time. She's troubled, like giving us that kind of vibe. And she's like, don't worry about her. But we both were very worried about her.
Yeah.
So Irene insisted, said, like, please, will you just look at her hand? She's got this mark on her hand. Mm-hmm. And the mother was like, really, I know she's just fine. And neither of us felt like she was fine, but both of us felt like it's time for us to go. Right,
exactly. You don't get in the middle of that. So
we got right back into the car, and we pulled out, and the sun was still beautiful, and the road was still beautiful, but we couldn't bring ourselves to turn the radio on. Mm-hmm. And we drove in silence with the wind blowing through, and now it just felt like the whole world was ruined. What do you think about that dream?
Well, I thought we didn't try to interpret.
We're not trying to interpret the dream.
What do I think about it? It sounds very sad. But I understand the sadness. But, you know, the pastor in me is like, things happen in families that are weird. Huh. And we don't know. And
so that's what it draws you toward, like a family dysfunction between them more?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I think it feels to me like you and Irene were witnesses to something. Oh. And you don't know what you were witnesses to. Huh. And there's lots of times that we're witnesses to things that we don't. That just still makes me laugh. That there are things that we are witnesses to that we don't understand the impact, but it is very important for us to be witnesses.
Right. That's like, see, this is why I knew it would be great to have you on. Because that is, like, that way of thinking about the story never occurred to me. Like, I felt like it was a profound dream because, like, that symbolism, or that, like, the visceral and otherworldliness of the wound, and, you know, the vulnerability of a child.
Yeah.
But then also the how much your feelings about the world and life and reality can just pivot on a dime in the way that, like, one moment we're so happy, but by the end we can't even imagine happiness anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think that happens to a lot of people. I mean, that's how bad things happen in our lives, right?
Right.
But the opposite is also true. So, and we don't always, we recognize it when the opposite is true, and we appreciate it more when the opposite is true. Right. But when it's the you know, as I jokingly say, going to the dark side, it's not always. You know, there's this series of books that I read a long time ago, and they're old. I mean, they're probably 50 years old. It's maybe not that much. But the series is called, the main character in the series is Thomas Covenant. And Thomas Covenant lives in, you know, our time, and is divorcing his wife because he's become so negative because he has leprosy. And we're losing it. Yep, leprosy. And, you know, leprosy is now very treatable, but for some reason his form of leprosy was resisting treatment and all this stuff. All these things happen, and he ends up in, like, this alternate world or whatever. Huh. And he is the representation of the hero in that world. And he still has leprosy. And so all through these books, he's the hero. But the first thing he does, when he gets to that new world, he feels better because the leprosy isn't as bad. He still has leprosy, but it doesn't appear in that world. Uh-huh. It appears every time he goes back to his real world. Wow. So the first thing he does is he runs into a beautiful girl and rapes her. Yeah, it's like he's the hero that you want to punch in the head all the time.
Wow.
And that was the image of the hand. When you told me about the hand, that's what came up, was that, you know, in some parts of our life that we all have that wounded hand, for him it was leprosy, that visual kind of thing. And what do we do when we live with it, and what do we do when we don't? And what does healing feel like? And that could have been the least amount of her wound that she'd ever had.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Right, we don't know.
But you have no,
right.
She could have had all those wounds all over her body her entire life. But you just saw this little wound and were like, oh, that's so. And the mom was like, no, so instead of, there's something being witnessed there. It
Right.
could be healing. It
Right.
could be a family torn apart. We don't know. And you won't know until the time comes for you to know.
Right.
That's what I think.
I love that. I mean, like, none of that occurred to me in the slightest. But I mean, like, there's so many other things that once you started talking about it in that way.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we never think about the brother character anymore.
Right.
Even though he was the one that we were concerned about.
Yeah.
And, like, he seemed like the important character at that moment of destiny.
Yeah.
But then it turned out that it wasn't. He wasn't the moment of destiny. So there is, like, this Jungian way of interpreting dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to, so this is kind of an interpretive move.
Okay.
But, like, to me, to really interpret a dream, you kind of get all the way to the point where you're like, and this is what the dream means to me.
Oh,
and this
okay.
is how I can sort of work with it. So to me, like, the work is to hold the dream.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that means, like, just talking about what comes up for
Mm-hmm.
you, talking about connotations, talking about what it reminds you of, kind of weaving the threads of the story together.
Mm-hmm.
Like the location of that dream.
Right.
And, the fact that these people both came from this university I used to teach at. But this Jungian idea that every character in the dream is a part of you. And,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
sometimes our dream maker casts parts of ourselves that we have
Yes.
trouble dealing with.
Definitely.
In the form of other people.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we can read literature the same way, right?
Yeah.
Like, that every character, like Thomas, the hero with leprosy. Is that
Mhm.
his name, Thomas?
Mm-hmm. And it's not a mistake that his last name is Covenant.
Oh,
I don't think.
Right. What's the series called?
I think it's called The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant.
Oh, really?
And there's a first and second.
Yeah.
It's an amazing, like, I don't know, science fiction sent me more to faith than the Bible did, so that's just the reality of my life.
Everybody has a story, right? So, do you have a dream? How are we in time? Oh, this is so far the longest episode we've ever had.
Well, that's because we've been talking and we had some technical things.
Right. Maybe we should
That's
maybe we should have a second episode.
I don't really have a dream
You
that
don't
I
have
can
a dream?
think of right now. Maybe I'll have one tonight and we can film another one tomorrow.
Okay.
And then post it.
Sounds good.
If I have a dream. I'm thankful when I don't have dreams.
Oh, you're kidding.
Well, no, because it's restful. Because we talked about my brain thing.
Right.
My brain is very active all the time.
Right.
So when I think dreams are important, and obviously I called you and said I need to tell you about this dream, or I texted you or whatever.
Right.
But the times when I don't have them, and honestly, I have negative dreams more than I have ambiguous or positive.
Yeah, I mean, one of the weird things for me, maybe because I've been collecting and curating them for so long,
Mm-hmm.
is that even dreams that feel like dark or sad don't feel like negative dreams to me anymore. Like, even when I
Okay.
woke up with this dream,
Yeah,
by the time I wrote it all down,
yeah,
I was just like, it's outside of me now.
yeah. I
It's
really
like-
need to do that. I need to write down my dreams. I don't do that.
You know, when Harry Potter takes memories that he can't
Mhm.
bear to hold and puts them into the pensieve,
Mm-hmm.
to me it's made every dream feel like a gift and feel beautiful,
Okay.
because it's just, even if there's darkness, it's a dream.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us,
Thank you for watching me crochet.
and for watching me fold laundry and all the adventures we had.
Oh, this is the plate?
Yeah, it's just
I thought it was a real, like, folder thing. Like, you can buy real folder things. I made fun of him for this earlier. I told you I wasn't a nice person. I like that plate. It should be that way.
I'll gift it to you
No, you don't have to
for
give it to
Christmas
me.
next
No.
year. Thank you for coming.